She bought a husband for her spoilt daughter, unaware he came for something else. The woman who bought everything. Vivian Holloway had built her life on one belief. Everything had a price. People admired her glass towers, luxury estates, and charity galas, but they didn't see the years of ruthless decisions behind them. She didn't rise gently. She rose efficiently. At 56, Vivian ruled Crestview Heights like an invisible mayor. Judges took her calls. Developers waited for her nod. Politicians smiled wider when she entered a room. But inside her mansion, power meant nothing. "Mom, you embarrassed me again," Chanel screamed, pacing across the marble floor. Chanel Holloway, her only child, was beauty wrapped in entitlement. Born into wealth, she never learned patience, restraint, or consequence. "I'm not marrying a man who wants me to change," Chanel snapped. "That's not love." Vivian watched her daughter carefully. Chanel wasn't evil. She was untouched by reality. That scared Vivian more than rebellion. That night, after Chanel stormed upstairs, Vivian poured herself a drink and stared at the city lights. "She needs structure," Vivian murmured. "She needs a husband. And if love wouldn't come naturally, money would arrange it." The law office was silent except for the hum of air conditioning. Marcus Reed sat straight-backed, hands folded neatly. He didn't look desperate. He didn't look impressed. Vivian noticed that immediately. "You'll be marrying my daughter," Vivian said. "This is not a romance." Chanel smirked. "Just don't fall in love with me." Marcus didn't even glance at her. "The expectations?" he asked. Vivian slid the contract forward. "You will play the role of a respectable husband. Control public scandals. Enforce discipline. In return, you receive $5 million. Marcus scanned the document calmly. "And divorce?" he asked. "After 3 years," Vivian replied. "Clean. Quiet." He nodded. Chanel laughed. "You're really buying me a man." Vivian replied coldly. "I'm buying you stability." Marcus signed. As he stood, Vivian extended her hand. "Welcome to the family." Marcus shook it. Her grip was firm. But his was steadier. The wedding was a spectacle. Drones hovered. Violinists played. Guests wore diamonds heavy enough to buy villages. Chanel floated down the aisle like royalty. Marcus waited. He didn't smile. When Chanel whispered, "Relax, it's just business," Marcus nodded. But Elder Samuel Brooks, seated in the back, frowned deeply. "That boy," he whispered. "I know those eyes." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, applause thundered. But Elder Brooks felt a chill. Somewhere, something buried had just been disturbed. Marriage shocked Chanel. Marcus didn't flatter her. Didn't praise her tantrums. Didn't buy silence with gifts. "You spent $30,000 on shoes," Marcus said calmly one morning. "So?" Chanel scoffed. "So you'll return them," he replied. "You're donating the money." Chanel stared at him in disbelief. "You don't tell me what to do." Marcus met her eyes. "I do," he said evenly. "That's the agreement." She slapped him. The sound echoed. Marcus turned slowly. "Never again," he said quietly. That night, Chanel cried for the first time, not from anger, but confusion. The mansion had a private archive. Vivian thought it forgotten. She was wrong. Marcus entered late at night, fingers steady, heart pounding. He found old land deeds tied to Riverton Plains. His home. His throat tightened. Then he found the sealed envelope. 1998. Forced relocation. Minor casualty. 1 child missing. Marcus closed his eyes. "They erased me," he whispered. This marriage wasn't revenge. It was retrieval. Vivian's phone rang non-stop. A journalist asked about land seizures. A lawyer asked about reopened files. Vivian slammed her desk. "Marcus!" she called sharply. He stepped in calmly. "You're being audited," he said. Her eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" "I told the truth," Marcus replied. Fear flickered across her face. At the family dinner, tension choked the room. Elder Brooks stood slowly. "Years ago," he said, "a powerful woman destroyed Riverton Plains." Vivian froze. He pointed at Marcus. "That boy lived." Marcus stepped forward. "My real name is Malik Brooks." Chanel gasped. Vivian's glass shattered in her hand. The room felt too small for the truth that had just entered it. Vivian Holloway stood frozen, her perfectly styled hair unmoving, her hand bleeding from the shattered glass she no longer felt. The words, "My real name is Malik Brooks," still echoed in her ears like a gunshot. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." Malik stood tall, no anger in his posture, no triumph in his eyes. Just certainty. "It's very possible," he said calmly. "You signed the eviction order. You approved the bulldozers. You buried the report." Chanel's breathing became erratic. She looked from her mother to her husband. No, former contract husband. And suddenly every argument, every rule, every moment of discipline felt different. "You didn't just come to control me," she said hoarsely. "You came to destroy her." Malik shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "I came to reclaim the truth. Destruction was optional. Accountability was not." Vivian staggered back into her chair. "That village was illegal land," she snapped weakly. "We followed procedure." Elder Brooks slammed his cane on the floor. "You followed profit," he thundered. "Children were displaced. Families were scattered. And one boy," his voice cracked, "was left presumed dead." Malik's voice dropped. "I survived," he said. "But my father didn't." Silence swallowed the room. Chanel sank to the floor. For the first time in her life, luxury could not cushion the fall. The fall was not loud. It was cold. It began with unanswered calls. Vivian's assistant quit without notice. Her board requested an indefinite leave. A charity gala quietly removed her name from the banner. Crestview Heights, once her kingdom, turned into a museum of closed doors. At a private club, Vivian entered confidently. The room went still. Whispers followed. "She's the one. The land scandal. Did you hear about the boy?" Vivian left without ordering a drink. At home, Chanel refreshed her social media feed endlessly. Unfollowed. Muted. Removed. A former friend sent a single message. "I can't be seen with this right now." Chanel threw the phone and screamed. "Why is this happening to me?" Vivian watched her daughter crumble and, for the first time, didn't know how to fix it. That night, she sat alone in her massive bedroom. No assistance, no strategy calls, just the sound of her own breathing. Power hadn't left suddenly. It had withdrawn consent. While chaos erupted around him, Malik moved with quiet precision. He met lawyers at dawn, community leaders at noon, elders at night. Not once did he raise his voice. Chanel noticed. "You're not angry," she said one evening as he reviewed files at the dining table. "You should hate her." Malik paused, then answered gently. "I did hate her," he said. "For years. Hate kept me alive. But it can't finish the work." She swallowed. "Why not take everything?" she asked. "Why not ruin her completely?" Malik looked at her, not judgmentally, not kindly, truthfully. "Because children still live on that land," he said. "And they deserve a future more than I deserve revenge." That night, Chanel lay awake, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, she realized strength didn't shout. It endured. The courtroom was packed beyond capacity. Journalists lined the walls. Community members filled every seat. Vivian Holloway sat between her lawyers like a statue carved from pride. Malik testified calmly. He told the story of bulldozers arriving at dawn, of his father pushing him into the bushes, of sirens, of silence. A former security contractor testified next. "We were told not to log casualties," he said. "Just clear the land." A woman stepped forward, holding a faded photograph. "This was my home," she said, voice trembling. "We never got compensation." Vivian's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. When the ruling came, the room held its breath. "Vivian Holloway," the judge said, "you are found guilty of unethical land seizure and concealment of evidence." The gavel struck. Chanel flinched. Vivian closed her eyes. For the first time in her life, the room did not bend for her. Restitution was not symbolic. It was exact. Land titles were returned. Families received compensation. A development fund was established, overseen not by corporations, but by community elders. Malik stood in Riverton Plains months later. Children ran where rubble once lay. An old man approached him, tears streaming. "You came back for us," the man said. Malik nodded. "I promised I would," he replied. That night, Malik stood alone where his childhood home once stood. He placed a small stone on the ground. "For you, Dad," he whispered. "We're no longer erased." Above him, the wind moved gently through new foundations. Not vengeance. Not victory. Restoration. Chanel Holloway had never packed her own bags before. She stood in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by designer clothes she could no longer afford to wear publicly. The mirrors that once reflected confidence now showed a woman unsure where she belonged. Her credit cards were frozen. Not temporarily. Not as a threat. Permanently. Vivian's lawyers had insisted on it as part of the settlement. "You'll be provided a modest allowance," one of them said gently. "Enough to live. Not enough to perform." The words stung. Chanel moved into a small apartment across town. 2 rooms, thin walls, no doorman. The first night, she slept with the lights on. The silence was terrifying. No staff moving around. No hum of luxury. Just her thoughts. She burned her first meal and cried on the kitchen floor, overwhelmed by something unfamiliar. Responsibility. Days later, she applied for a job, using her real name. No one recognized it. No one cared. And for the first time, Chanel Holloway learned what it meant to stand alone. Vivian Holloway had issued apologies before. Public apologies. Corporate apologies. Apologies crafted by lawyers and softened by donations. This time, none worked. She sat across from Malik in a quiet restaurant, her posture stiff, her voice unsteady. "I didn't know about the child," she said. "I swear it." Malik listened without interruption. "You knew people would suffer," he replied calmly. "You just didn't think they'd have names." Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "I built everything for my daughter." "And destroyed families to do it," Malik said gently. The gentleness hurt more than anger. Vivian left that meeting knowing something irreversible had happened. Forgiveness wasn't denied. It simply wasn't owed. The final family dinner felt like a funeral without a body. No cameras. No press. No audience. Vivian sat at the head of the table, out of habit, not authority. Chanel sat across from Malik, hands folded nervously. "I don't know who I am without money," Chanel admitted quietly. Malik met her gaze. "Then this is the first honest moment of your life," he said. Vivian looked between them, her voice breaking. "I tried to control everything because I was afraid." Chanel didn't answer. Fear didn't excuse damage. When dinner ended, Malik stood. "This is where we stop pretending," he said. "No hugs. No closure. Just truth, finally spoken." The divorce was swift. Silent. Efficient. Chanel signed the papers with trembling hands. "This wasn't real," she said softly. "But it changed me." Malik nodded. "Growth often comes from borrowed structures," he replied. As he turned to leave, Chanel stopped him. "Did you ever care?" she asked. He paused. "I cared enough not to lie to you," he said. That answer stayed with her long after he left. Months later, Headlines shocked the public again. Former contract husband partners with disgraced heiress. Chanel stood at a press conference, dressed simply, voice steady. "I am not here to reclaim privilege," she said. "I'm here to repair harm." The partnership wasn't romantic. It was strategic. They launched a community development firm focused on ethical housing, transparent, community-led, publicly audited. Malik oversaw accountability. Chanel handled operations, learning, listening, earning trust slowly. For the first time, Chanel worked harder than anyone around her. And no one applauded. That was the point. Vivian Holloway watched the press conference from a reduced estate, smaller, quieter, honest. No assistants hovered nearby. She didn't call anyone, didn't interrupt. She watched her daughter speak without entitlement, without borrowed confidence. For the first time, Vivian understood the cost of control. And she didn't stand up to escape it. She sat. And stayed seated. Years later, Riverton Plains thrived again. Children played where rubble once stood. Homes rose without secrecy. Elders had seats at every decision table. A plaque stood at the entrance of the community center. Built from truth. Sustained by accountability. An old woman touched Malik's arm. "You didn't just return land," she said. "You returned dignity." Malik smiled softly. That was always the goal. Narrator voice. Slow, reflective. This was never a love story. It was a responsibility story. A story about power confronted, privilege humbled, and truth that refused to stay buried. Chanel stood alone at sunset, watching children laugh. No spotlight. No applause. Just peace earned the hard way. The real marriage wasn't between two people. It was between truth and consequence. And for the first time, they honored each other. Fade out.